So we're at that time of the year where the Formula One driver market is in full flow. So I thought it'd be a good time to sort of look at the driver market for 2025, given that there are only a few seats remaining now. Most of the teams are locked in for next year, but there still are a few seats remaining. So I thought that for this video, I would give my predictions as to which drivers would fill those vacancies that are left for 2025. As it stands, McLaren, Ferrari and Red Bull are locked in for 2025. Aston Martin, although they haven't officially confirmed their driver lineup for next year, we know obviously Fernando Alonso is there, already confirmed, he signed a new contract, but we also know that Lawrence Stroll will be sitting in that second seat, given that he obviously is on a rolling contract and his dad owns the team. So that is pretty much 4 teams confirmed for 2025. But there is 1 seat remaining at Mercedes, there's 1 left at RB to fill, there's a couple seats at Haas and Alpine, there is 1 at the Sauber Audi project, and of course there is 1 seat left at Williams. So without further ado, let's get into my predictions for the remaining seats for 2025. Well, for me there is really only one place that we can start, and that is with Carlos Sainz and where his future is going to lie. We know that obviously he's going to be leaving Ferrari, Lewis Hamilton is going to be taking his place for next year, and that has left Sainz obviously looking in search of a seat for 2025. And since the start of the year, the main sort of team he's been linked with is Sauber, but it seems that the Sauber Audi project is not the only team he's been linked with. He's also been linked with Williams as well, and it seems that it's between those 2 teams as to where Sainz will be next year. Looking at it, it seemed pretty much up until maybe a few weeks ago that it was a near uncertainty that Sainz will be joining the Sauber Audi project. But in recent weeks, the Williams rumours have gathered pace, and I think that's where he's going to end up. So my prediction is that Carlos Sainz will end up at Williams in 2025 alongside Alex Albon. And I think part of that reason is I don't think Sainz is completely fully convinced by that Sauber Audi project. Exactly been plain sailing for Audi, although a lot of effort into building this project, developing obviously the engine for the new regulations coming in 2026. They put a lot of effort into building new facilities, particularly in Germany, obviously where they're based. They've also signed a host of new staff and so on. So while they're building in numbers and they're slowly growing in preparation for their arrival, I don't think Sainz has been fully convinced by the whole of the project that it's going to bring success in the sort of short to medium term, which obviously is what he would ideally want. But I think looking at the Williams project instead, with James Vowles on board, he's been very vocal about wanting Sainz to join the team. I think him and Albon would really make a strong pairing for Williams. I think a big factor is also the fact that Mercedes, who obviously power Willims use Mercedes engines, and Mercedes are quietly confident about building another groundbreaking engine as they did at the start of the V6 hybrid era in 2014. So that is again another positive instrument that could really lure Sainz. At the minute, he is obviously in the prime of his career. He's performing exceptionally well. He's obviously got 3 Grand Prix victories to his name, so he needs something that's going to really resonate with him and give him success now. He can't afford to wait. If he wants to be world champion, he can't afford to wait too long. So for me, I think that Carlos Sainz is going to choose Williams over Sauber for 2025. So if Sainz does decide to turn down the Sauber Audi project, that means that obviously they would have to look elsewhere, and it seems as though that the next best option for Sauber to hire a second driver alongside Nico Hülkenberg, who they've already signed for 2025, would be Esteban Ocon. And that's my prediction for next year, that Esteban Ocon will be alongside Hülkenberg for Sauber in 2025 ahead of Audi's arrival in 26. I think there has been a lot of speculation that Ocon is on Sauber's books, or one of the drivers on Sauber's books, and he is quite high on that list. I think although Sainz is the top priority, if I think he will go to Williams, I think that Ocon is the next in line to take that seat. Obviously, he will come with a good baggage. He's obviously a Grand Prix winner. He has been performing well this season. Obviously, there's been a bit of controversy this year at Alpine, obviously with the accident that happened at Monaco and the fallout from there. And we know that Ocon's relationship with Alpine is at an all-time low, and that he does have a bit of a reputation also for clashing with his teammates. But nevertheless, as I said, he is a Grand Prix winner. He's 27 years old, so he's still young, but he also brings a lot of experience as well. He would be a great option for Sauber to take if they can't get their hands on Sainz. So that would be my prediction. But if Sauber can't get their hands on Sainz, they will instead go for Esteban Ocon, and Ocon will be in that seat ahead of the Audi arrival in 2026. That brings us on to the Mercedes seat. Of course, there is a seat alongside George Russell vacant for 2025 now that Lewis Hamilton is obviously leaving for Ferrari. And this one is actually a pretty easy one for me. I think that it's going to be Kimi Antonelli alongside Russell in that seat in 2025. We know that this has been pretty much a rumour since the start of the year, since Hamilton decided to announce that he was going to go off to Ferrari for a new challenge. And obviously Antonelli is a Mercedes young driver. He's highly rated. He is tipped to be the next sort of big star in Formula One. He's been compared to the likes of Max Verstappen and Hamilton himself, given just how talented he is, given how successful he's been through his rise up the junior categories. I know that Toto Wolff, obviously, as well as rating him highly, has been very vocal in the fact that they really want to give him that chance to promote him to the Mercedes Formula One team immediately. Obviously, he's racing in Formula 2 at the minute for Prema and hasn't exactly set the world alight in F2, but he's been steadily building. I think race by race, he is definitely getting quicker, getting more consistent. There are still enough signs that he is building and growing as a driver, and he'll be ready for that Formula 1 chance if it does come to him. I think initially we all expected he would maybe go to Williams and maybe do a year or two there and then be promoted to the Mercedes team, but it seems that Mercedes are happy to fast track him immediately into the senior team, and I think 2025 would be the perfect time to do this. You know, he'd be 18 years old, he'd have 1 year of these current regulations, which would sort of allow him to be embedded into the team, get used to the world of Formula One before, and then give him, a full year of preparation before these new regulations arrive in 2026, and he can go full attack with obviously the revised regulations. It could be the perfect time to draft him in. So for me, without a doubt, Antonelli will be in there. Toto Wolff seems very keen not to make the same mistake that he did with Max Verstappen all those years ago and immediately draft him into the team and give him that chance. So I'm going to go with Kimi Antonelli to partner George Russell at Mercedes in 2025. Now let's move on to Haas, and Haas are one of those teams that have not confirmed any of their drivers for 2025, so that means we've got to predict which 2 drivers will fill those seats, and one of them for me is very, very easy. One of the seats will be filled by Ollie Bearman. I think that deal is pretty much done and dusted. We know that obviously he is a Ferrari young driver and that Haas will have a close alliance to Ferrari. Bearman is pretty much guaranteed to be on the Formula 1 grid, particularly after his impressive debut for Ferrari at the last minute in Saudi Arabia when he replaced Carlos Sainz and drove to a really respectable 7th place. That performance alone pretty much confirmed that he would be in Formula 1 in 2025, and it seems that Haas is going to be the destination where he will go. We know that obviously he's extremely talented, young British driver, 18 years old. Although he's had a difficult year in F2, I think probably the fact that he was so impressive on his F1 debut was maybe he's sort of a little bit distracted. We know that he's not really performed to the levels that we expected him to be. He was certainly my tip for the F2 Championship, but it seems like that's going to be a bit difficult now. He's not being consistent, but nevertheless he will be absolutely in Formula 1 in 2025, and it's really going to be exciting to see where he goes from here. In the second Haas seat, I'm going to go with Valtteri Bottas to join Bearman. This is maybe a bit of a left field choice, but I think that Bottas would be a great fit for Haas. We obviously know that Bottas is looking around for a drive and he's been speaking to several teams for next year. Obviously, he's still currently with Sauber, but it seems very unlikely that he'll be kept on for next year, hence why he's been going around speaking to other teams about trying to continue his Formula 1 career. He's obviously been in Formula 1 for over a decade now. He's a Grand Prix winner. He's hugely experienced. He's still quick. He's still worthy of being on the Formula 1 grid. So for me, he would be a great fit for Haas. It would mean for the first time that Haas would field a driver that is a Grand Prix winner, and that would be kind of quite a huge stepping stone for Haas, really. It did seem as though a few weeks ago that Williams was going to be the favoured destination for Bottas. It seemed that he'd had good talks with them. Obviously, he knows James Vowles from his days at Mercedes. That would have been probably the predicted destination for Bottas to go. But it seems that now, with Sainz's talks ramping up, it does seem that Bottas may have to look elsewhere just in case. And I think that out of the options that are there, I think that Alpine is a potential option, but I think Haas is the more likely destination, but Bottas will end up in 2025. Another team that has 2 vacancies for next year is of course Alpine. So who will be filling those 2 seats? Well, one of the seats I think will be filled by Pierre Gasly. Alpine is really going to need somebody who is going to provide some stability. Gasly is the obvious option, although he has, like his teammate Esteban Ocon, been searching around for another drive and talking to other teams just in case. I think he will be happy to stay on, given that Ocon is now leaving. He'll know deep down that he will be, if he stays, he will be given that number 1 status. He will be sort of be thrust into that team leader role, which I think he'll really thrive on and really embrace as well. Obviously, Gasly is a Grand Prix winner. He's performed decently since he joined Alpine. He obviously beat Ocon in the head-to-head battle last year in 2023. This year, he has been outperformed by Ocon. That's pretty obvious, both in qualifying and the races, although he is obviously now ahead in the points after the Canadian Grand Prix. But nevertheless, I think that Gasly would be more than likely to stay at least for 2025. And then in that second seat alongside Gasly, I'm going to go with their reserve driver, Jack Doohan. I think that Doohan has really put a lot of effort into making sure that he is prepared for Formula One. He has gone pretty much all in to make this a reality. He's decided to skip F2 this year, having done, I think he did 3 seasons in F2, had a decent record in there. He was obviously a race winner on multiple occasions, so he does have a pretty decent record. He didn't set the world alight, but nevertheless he decided to put all his eggs in the Formula One basket and just focus on being a reserve driver for Alpine this year, in the hope that he would be given the chance with obviously some FP1 outings, and that he could do enough to impress them to be promoted to that Formula One seat. And I think, given that he's got a decent relationship with the team, he's obviously been part of the Alpine/Renault driver academy for a few years now, so he's really embedded into the team, and I think they really like him as a person. He's obviously a great personality as well. He's a great talker. From a driving point of view, I think they would really be happy to give him that chance of being in Formula One. So for me, I would see Doohan as the most likely candidate to fill that second seat alongside Gasly. So that leaves us with one more seat, and that is of course at RB. Yuki Tsunoda has already been confirmed recently over the Canadian Grand Prix weekend, in fact, that he will be staying on at RB for another year, leaving one seat alongside him vacant, and that is going to be filled by either Daniel Ricciardo or Liam Lawson. Those two are fighting it out. Given what is being sort of talked about in the media, it seems as though Red Bull are extremely keen to keep on Ricciardo, despite the fact he has had a difficult season up till now and has been considerably outperformed by Tsunoda over the course of the season. And this is despite the fact that Helmut Marko sort of promised Lawson that he would be given a Formula One seat in 2025, especially after he was so impressive during his 5-race stint for the team last year, when he obviously replaced Ricciardo after he broke his wrist at Zandvoort. I think before I sort of read this speculation that Red Bull were really keen to keep Ricciardo, I would have put Lawson in 100%, and I think that Lawson does deserve that chance more than Ricciardo. But I think given just how Red Bull love Ricciardo, both particularly from a marketing point of view, he's probably Formula One's greatest personality. He's obviously great with sponsors and so on. He's still quick from time to time, but it's just that consistency that he's lacking, and he is outperformed by his younger teammate in Tsunoda, and that is something that he really does need to address. But for me, he isn't doing enough at the minute, and I think given what Jacques Villeneuve's comments on Sky over the weekend, I agree with Jacques certainly on his current form. I think Ricciardo has not been good enough and really needs to step it up, and in Canada he did step it up. He qualified 5th, finished in the points in 8th. That's something he needs to do now on a consistent basis if he wants to keep that seat. Even though in my heart I would put Lawson in the seat, I think he deserves that chance. In my head, I think that RB are going to go with Daniel Ricciardo and stick with that same driver lineup of Tsunoda Ricciardo for 2025. So those are my predictions for the remaining seats for 2025. And it really does seem that the driver market really is starting to ramp up, and we're going to get more of an idea as to how the grid will look next year over the coming weeks. But do you agree with my predictions? Do you have any of your own? Be sure to let me know in the comment section. And if you are new around here, don't forget to like the video and to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.